So, I'm shaking. My heart is racing so fast right now and so hard that I can feel it in my entire body. And it's not just because I'm wearing heels. Yeah, so for most of you, it might look like I'm nervous. But what's happening right now is called anxiety. It goes way beyond nerves. And basically I get worried. About what? I couldn't tell you. Just worried. But nervous doesn't even begin to describe it. The way I tell people what anxiety is and what it feels like is feeling nervous about everything, and you're claustrophobic, and the entire world is a tiny little room packed with people in it. So it's not great, but let me back up. I wasn't diagnosed with an anxiety disorder until the spring of 2013, so that was just a year ago. So up until then, I thought it was completely normal to feel like you're going to throw up at the mere thought of asking a friend to hang out, or start shaking when you raise your hand in class, or do things like this and turn bright red and start getting really warm because it's getting really hot here. And don't even get me started on liking somebody. The process became so exhausting just to figure out how to say hi without making it completely awkward that it just wasn't worth it. I cry when I'm frustrated, also thought that happened to everyone, and that I was just going to have to live life with the daily struggle that became anxiety. Then came the turning point. Last year, after the loss of a close friend, I couldn't get through a single day without feeling dizzy and not being able to breathe. A couple of times, I would be walking to class and I'd have to stop and sit down because I thought I was going to pass out. I started having panic attacks, running out of rooms because I couldn't handle it. So I went to CAPS. If you don't know, that's the Counseling and Psychological Services here at Stony Brook. And here I am. This isn't a story about how all of a sudden my problems melted away by figuring out what exactly was causing them. And every day isn't rainbows and butterflies. Every day's a new one, and some days are easier than others. This being a particularly hard day. But in the long run, finding out, is this still on? Yeah, okay. In the long run, finding out that it wasn't just me took a weight off of my shoulders. My whole life I've been considered a crybaby, sensitive, dramatic, over the top. I spent so long thinking that there was something wrong with me as a person that this discovery that yes, I was different, but it was something out of my control, made it easier to breathe. Just because people didn't understand what was going on in my head and with the chemicals in my body didn't mean I was doing anything wrong or being a human incorrectly. Anxiety, as I've come to realize, is a lot more common than people think. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, around 6.8 million American adults suffer from general anxiety disorder in a given year. And that's only one of 7 disorders classified as anxiety disorders. So it's not something no one goes through, and while it still feels like I'm in a tiny little room, it feels like I'm not the only person who has to deal with it. As a person with anxiety, I can tell you one thing. Nothing gives you anxiety more than having an anxiety disorder. And this is true for several reasons. One, it would be nice if I could flirt with someone or have a general conversation and not feel like my throat's in a knot and my stomach's in my butt. But more importantly, it would make friendships easier for those around me. If I leave you with anything today, I want it to be that you always remember that if someone is getting on your nerves or being what you would call dramatic or sensitive, take an extra second to put yourself in their shoes. Those of us with anxiety aren't trying to be annoying or frustrating, because believe me, if it was in our control, we would turn it off. I hate it when I get on my friends' nerves, because I know it's frustrating, and it's the last thing I want to do. And it makes it harder when I'm trying to figure something out, or I realize that it's in my head and I'm being anxious, and all I'm doing is sitting with someone who's getting annoyed with me. So yeah, we didn't choose to live like this. It's just something that happened. Whether we were born with it or we went through something that changed us, which is kind of a mix of what happened to me. We aren't being difficult on purpose. And if we're driving you crazy, please don't tell us to calm down. Probably one of the worst things you could do, because we're trying to. We don't want to be frantic. We don't want to be freaking out over the tiniest thing. It makes it more difficult for us. So as long as you remember that, that's truly the most important thing when you're talking to a friend who has anxiety. Sorry. If we could calm down, we would, but we can't, which is usually how we end up in frantic, or for lack of a better word, anxious moods. So sit with us. Let us vent. Be a friend, because in the end, we will take a deep breath and be glad we had you with us.